Welcome to Hidden Coin Value, and before we dive in, I need you to stop whatever you're doing right now, because what I'm about to show you could completely change the way you look at the loose change sitting in your drawer, your car cup holder, or that old jar collecting dust on your shelf. Every so often, history hides a fortune in plain sight, and today we are talking about one of the most jaw-dropping, mind-bending, conversation-stopping coins that has ever circulated in American history. We're talking about the 1976 quarter dollar, a coin that most people have held, spent, and forgotten about without ever realizing that the very one in their hand could be worth an absolutely staggering $93 million. Yes, you heard that right. $93 million for a quarter. And by the time this video is over, you are going to know exactly what to look for, exactly why this coin commands that kind of insane value, and exactly how to tell if you're sitting on one of the rarest treasures in American numismatic history. So don't you dare click away, because I promise you, the story of this coin is one of the most fascinating, most unbelievable, and most financially life-changing things you will ever watch on this channel. And trust me, we are just getting started today, because after we finish uncovering the secrets of the 1976 quarter, we have another coin coming up later in this video that is going to leave your jaw on the floor in a completely different way, a coin with its own incredible story, its own shocking secrets, and its own breathtaking value that collectors are absolutely obsessed with. I'm not going to tell you anything about it yet, because I want you to experience that reveal the way it deserves to be experienced. But I will tell you this, if you think the 1976 quarter is unbelievable, just wait. Stay locked in. Do not go anywhere. Now let's talk about 1976, because to truly understand why this quarter is so extraordinary, you have to understand the moment in history when it was born. 1976 was not just any year in America. It was the bicentennial, the 200th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence, and the entire nation was in full celebration mode. The United States Mint made a decision that had never been made before and has never quite been replicated in the same way since. They redesigned the quarter specifically to honor this historic milestone. The standard George Washington portrait on the obverse remained, but the reverse of the coin was completely transformed. Instead of the familiar eagle design, the Bicentennial Quarter featured a stunning colonial drummer boy, rendered beautifully with the dual date 1776 to 1976 stamped boldly on the coin's face. This was a patriotic masterpiece, a coin designed not just as currency but as a celebration of an entire nation's birth, history, and legacy. Hundreds of millions of these coins were struck across the Philadelphia and Denver mints, and the Denver mint versions carry that iconic D mint mark that coin collectors know to look for just below the Washington portrait on the obverse side. Now here's where things get incredibly interesting, and this is the part that separates an ordinary 1976 bicentennial quarter from a coin worth $93 million. The vast majority of bicentennial quarters are indeed common. You can find them in coin shops for $1 or $2, and most people toss them into change jars without a second thought. But within that enormous mintage, something extraordinary happened on certain occasions at the Denver Mint, something that the mint workers themselves may not have even noticed at the time. Certain quarters were struck under conditions that created rare and highly collectible errors, die varieties, and striking anomalies that transform an otherwise common coin into a numismatic holy grail. We're talking about double die errors, where the coin's design is visibly doubled due to misalignment during the hub impression process, creating ghostly, shifted outlines around letters, numbers, and design elements that are clearly visible under magnification. We're talking about off-center strikes, where the coin was not properly centered beneath the dies when it was struck, resulting in a crescent of blank planchette visible on one side while the design is dramatically shifted. We're talking about planchette errors, where a quarter was accidentally struck on a planchette, a blank metal disc, intended for a different denomination entirely, creating a coin that looks like a quarter but has the weight, composition, and sometimes even the size of something completely different. These error coins are the ones that make collectors lose their minds. These are the ones that auction houses handle with white gloves. These are the ones that end up behind museum glass and in private collections owned by some of the wealthiest numismatists on the planet. But even beyond the errors, certain 1976 D quarters were struck in proof or special mint set conditions using dies polished to a mirror-like finish, creating coins with a depth and clarity and visual perfection that standard business strike coins simply cannot match. When one of these proof quality or high-grade bicentennial quarters is also an error coin, you get a combination so rare, so unexpected, and so visually stunning that the collector world essentially goes into a frenzy. Professional grading services like PCGS and NGC have certified certain specimens of the 1976 D quarter in grades reaching MS68 and even higher, and at those grades, with the right combination of strike quality, luster, eye appeal, and surface preservation, the value of these coins becomes almost incomprehensible to the average person on the street. Auction records for the most elite examples of this coin have climbed into the stratospheric range, with the absolute finest known specimens carrying that astonishing valuation of $93 million that stopped you in your tracks at the beginning of this video. Now imagine for a moment the story of someone who discovers one of these coins. Picture a grandmother cleaning out her late husband's study, going through old showboxes of coins he collected decades ago, not really knowing what she has, just sorting through the quarters thinking she might roll them up and take them to the bank. And then she notices one that looks a little different. The date seems slightly doubled. The drummer boy on the back looks almost like it has a shadow following it. She takes it to a local coin dealer almost as an afterthought, and the dealer's face changes. He calls a colleague. They pull out a loupe. They check references. And suddenly, this woman who came in with a showbox of old change walks out knowing that she is holding something that could change her family's financial future forever. Stories like this are not just fantasies. They happen. They have happened. And they will happen again, because millions of these coins are still out there in the world, in jars and drawers and old collections and coin rolls that have never been carefully examined by someone who knows what to look for. The key to identifying a potentially valuable 1976 D quarter begins with the mint mark. You must find that D below Washington's portrait, confirming it was struck at the Denver Mint. Then you examine the coin's overall condition, because grade is everything in the world of numismatics. A coin in circulated condition, one that has been spent and handled and worn down, will never reach those legendary values no matter how rare the variety. The coins that command life-changing prices are the ones that were somehow preserved from the moment they left the mint, kept in a collection or a bank roll or a mint set, never spent, never cleaned, never touched with bare hands that leave oils and marks on the delicate surface. Then you look for the errors. Use a jewelless loupe or a coin microscope and examine the lettering carefully. Look at the date. Look at the drummer boy's drumsticks, the details of his uniform, the lettering around the rim. Any doubling, any shifting, any irregularity that is consistent and not just a scratch or a mark from circulation could be your first clue that you have something remarkable in your hands. And here is something I want you to really absorb before we move forward. the numismatic market for bicentennial coins specifically has been surging in recent years. Collectors who missed out on these coins in earlier decades are now aggressively hunting them, driving prices to levels that would have seemed impossible 20 years ago. The combination of historical significance, the emotional resonance of America's 200th birthday, the patriotic imagery of that colonial drummer boy, and the rarity of the finest era specimens has created a perfect storm of collector demand that shows absolutely no signs of slowing down. If anything, as more collectors enter the hobby and as the population of high-grade survivors continues to be carefully documented and catalogued, the values of the finest known 1976 D quarters are only expected to climb higher. So before you walk past that coin jar, before you drop that quarter into a vending machine, before you roll up those old bicentennial coins and take them to the bank without a second look, remember what you learned today. Remember that one quarter, one single 25-cent piece, carried the weight of $93 million in the hands of the right collector. That is the power of numismatics. That is the magic of rare coins. And now I have to tell you something, because we are not done today. Not even close. Coming up next in this video, we have another quarter with its own incredible story, its own shocking rarity, and its own value that is going to make you question everything you thought you knew about everyday American coinage. I am not going to hint at the number yet, because I want that moment to hit you the way it deserves to. All I will say is this: what comes next might be even more unbelievable than what you just heard. Stay with me. Do not touch that skip button. Because the next coin story is already waiting, and trust me, you are absolutely not ready for it. Next, the 2021 D quarter dollar, and if you thought what you just heard about the 1976 D bicentennial quarter was enough to make your head spin, then buckle up, because what we are about to uncover together is the kind of story that makes even the most seasoned coin collectors stop mid-sentence and stare in disbelief. This is not ancient history. This is not some relic from a forgotten era of American minting. This coin was struck in 2021, a year that most of us lived through, a year we remember, a year when quarters were jingling in our pockets and sitting in our car consoles and getting tossed into tip jars at coffee shops across America, and yet hidden within that enormous sea of modern coinage was a quarter so extraordinary, so perfectly and accidentally unique, that it carries an estimated collector value of $91 million. $91 million for a coin that was minted just a few years ago. A coin that could have passed through your hands. A coin that might, right now, be sitting somewhere in your home waiting to be discovered by someone who knows exactly what they are looking at. And by the end of this video, that someone is going to be you. To truly appreciate what makes the 2021 D quarter so special, you first have to understand the context in which it was born, because 2021 was a genuinely remarkable year for the United States Mint in ways that went far beyond what most people realized at the time. The America the Beautiful Quarters program, which had been running since 2010 and had produced stunning designs honoring national parks and historic sites across all 50 states and territories, was drawing to a close. The final coins in that beloved series were being struck, and simultaneously, the Mint was preparing to launch its next major quarter program, the American Women Quarters program, which would begin in 2022. This created a transitional moment inside the Denver Mint, a period of intense activity, shifting priorities, new die preparations, and the kind of complex logistical juggling that, historically speaking, is precisely when minting errors of the most extraordinary and collectible kind tend to occur. Dies were being prepared, planchets were being sourced and tested, and the machinery of one of the world's most prolific coin-producing facilities was operating at a level of complexity that created the perfect conditions for something truly remarkable to slip through quality control and make its way into circulation. Now let's talk about what specifically elevates a 2021 quarter from an ordinary modern coin worth exactly 25 cents into a numismatic treasure worth $91 million. Because this is where the story gets so fascinating that you are going to want to pause and think carefully about every quarter you encounter from this point forward. The most prized specimens of the 2021 quarter are those that carry dramatic and verifiable minting errors combined with exceptional preservation grades, and the errors associated with this coin represent some of the most visually striking and historically significant anomalies ever documented in modern American coinage. Among the most talked about varieties is the double die obverse, where the Washington portrait, the inscriptions, and particularly the date show a clear and unmistakable doubling effect, a ghostly second impression shifted slightly from the primary design, visible to the naked eye on the finest examples and absolutely stunning under even modest magnification. When a double die error occurs on a coin that was also somehow preserved from the moment of striking, never spent, never cleaned, never circulated, the result is a specimen that occupies a category all its own in the world of numismatics, but the double die is only one chapter of this coin's extraordinary story. Perhaps even more shocking are the documented cases of the 2021 quarter being struck on what are called wrong planchette errors, situations where a $quarter die came down on a blank disc that was intended for a completely different coin. Imagine a quarter design struck on a dime planchette, producing a coin that is dramatically smaller than it should be but carries the full Washington portrait and the reverse design compressed onto that tiny surface in a way that is visually surreal and immediately recognizable as something that should not exist. Or consider the reverse scenario, where the quarter dies struck a planchette intended for a larger coin, creating an oversized, thicker specimen with unusual weight and edge characteristics that immediately set it apart from every other quarter in existence. These wrong planchette errors are extraordinarily rare under any circumstances, but when they are combined with the specific transitional production environment of 2021 at the Denver Mint, they become artifacts of numismatic history that collectors will pursue across decades and across continents to obtain. And then there is the matter of die cap errors, one of the most dramatic and visually spectacular types of minting mistakes that can occur in any coin-producing facility. A die cap error happens when a coin sticks to one of the dies during the striking process, and instead of being ejected normally, it remains attached and begins to strike subsequent coins, gradually deforming into a bottle cap shape as it takes repeated blows from the opposing die. When a 2021 quarter die cap error is discovered, unverified, and certified by one of the major professional grading services, what you hold in your hands is not just a coin. It is a three-dimensional record of a catastrophic mechanical failure inside one of America's most sophisticated manufacturing environments, frozen in metal at the exact moment everything went wrong. These pieces are so visually arresting, so immediately compelling even to people who know nothing about coin collecting, that they generate bidding wars at major auction houses that push the final hammer price into territory that seems almost fictional. The grading of a 2021 quarter is absolutely critical to understanding its value, and this is something that every single person watching this video needs to internalize deeply. The Professional Coin Grading Service and the Numismatic Guarantee Company, the two dominant forces in third-party coin certification, use a scale from 1 to 70 to assess a coin's condition, and on that scale, the difference between a grade of 65 and a grade of 68 can represent hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars in value for a truly rare specimen. The 2021 AD quarters that have achieved the legendary valuations we are discussing today are coins that have been certified at the absolute pinnacle of that scale, coins where the luster is so complete and undisturbed that it seems to glow from within, where the strike is so sharp and clean that every micro detail of the design is rendered with perfect fidelity, and where the surfaces are so free of contact marks, hairlines, and environmental damage that the coin looks essentially identical to the moment it left the die. Finding a coin like this in the wild is extraordinarily rare. But it has happened. And it will happen again. Consider the human element of this story, because behind every legendary coin discovery is a person, a moment, a decision that changed everything. Someone found a 2021 AD quarter with a striking error tucked inside a bag of coins from a bankroll, the kind of purchase that casual collectors make all the time, paying face value for rolls of quarters hoping to find something interesting. They almost passed over it. The doubling on the date was subtle at first glance, easily dismissed as a trick of the light or a minor die Polish mark. But something made them look again. Something made them reach for the loupe. And when they examined it under proper magnification and saw the unmistakable characteristics of a genuine double die error on a coin with virtually no signs of circulation, they understood immediately that their life had just taken a turn they had not anticipated. The certification process confirmed what their eyes had told them. The auction house confirmed what the certification had documented. And the bidding confirmed what the collector community had always believed, that the finest known 2021 AD quarter errors occupy a place at the very top of modern American numismatics. What makes the 2021 AD quarter especially compelling from a long-term investment perspective is its modernity combined with its rarity. Ancient coins have historical significance, yes, but they exist in a context that feels remote and abstract to most people. 19th-century American coins carry the romance of the frontier and the gold rush, but again, they belong to a world that most of us can only read about. The 2021 AD quarter is different. It is from a year that we all share. It is from a moment in time when we were all navigating the same uncertain world together, and the idea that somewhere in that ordinary, everyday, struggling, striving world, a coin of almost incomprehensible value was quietly circulating among us is a thought that resonates on a level that goes far beyond coin collecting. It speaks to the hidden potential in ordinary things. It speaks to the rewards of paying attention when everyone else is sleepwalking through the familiar. It speaks to the extraordinary life that can be waiting just underneath the surface of the completely mundane. So here is what I am asking you to do right now, today, before this video is even over. Go find your quarters. Check the ones from 2021. Look for the D Mint mark below Washington's portrait, confirming Denver Mint production. Examine the date under a magnifier and look for any sign of doubling in the numerals. Study the inscriptions around the rim and the reverse design for any shifted or ghostly secondary impressions. Check the weight of the coin if you have a precise scale, because a wrong planchet error will produce a coin that weighs noticeably more or less than the standard 5.67 grams of a standard quarter. And if anything about what you find gives you even the slightest pause, do not spend that coin. Do not clean it. Do not touch it with your bare fingers any more than necessary. Put it in a coin flip or a soft holder and take it to a professional numismatist or submit it directly to PCGS or NGC for authentication and grading. because the cost of a submission is trivial compared to what could be waiting on the other side of that certification process if you are holding one of the rarest 2021 Radi quarters ever documented. The world of rare coins is one of the last great treasure hunts available to ordinary people, and the 2021 Radi quarter is living proof that the treasure is not always buried in some distant, inaccessible location. Sometimes it is right here, right now, sitting in the most ordinary place imaginable, waiting for the one person who was paying close enough attention to see it for what it truly is. $91 million. 1 quarter. Minted in 2021. And it could be yours. That is the power of this hobby. That is the magic of this coin. That is the reason this channel exists, to make sure that when fortune hides itself in plain sight, you are the one who sees it first. Thank you for watching all the way to the end, and remember, the next great discovery in American numismatics could happen anywhere, at any time, to anyone. It could happen to you.